Guys, I don't know if you've been hearing about the Brooks Glycerin Max, but it's kind of a hype shoe. And I think there's a lot of things that some of you may look at this shoe and kind of roll your eyes and maybe it won't work for me type of thing. But I want you to hold your opinion on this one. Guys, this is my full review of the Brooks Glycerin Max. Let's get into it. Before we get started, I just want to say this video is in collaboration with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Now, this pair of the Brooks Glycerin Max was sent to me for the purpose of review. However, no one at Roadrunner Sports has told me what to say. They don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the Brooks Glycerin Max from Roadrunner Sports for $200. Guys, I know, it's a little expensive, but we're going to talk more about that price as the video goes on. So first of all, I just want you to take a good look at this shoe. It's a big shoe, guys. I mean, there's a lot going on here. And when I say that the Brooks Glycerin Max is a max cushion shoe, I mean, this shoe is appropriately named with that max moniker at the end. The Glycerin Max has 45 1/4 in the heel, 39 1/4 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. And Brooks claims that in the US men's size 9, the Glycerin Max will tip the scale at 10.5 ounces or 297 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 13, everything gets heavier in my size. But in my size, the Glycerin Max tips the scale at 13.4 ounces or 379 grams. So now, while we're talking about weight, while we just talked about price, let's just talk about some of the competition, because we have to consider the Asics Glide Ride Max. Now, the Asics Glide Ride Max is only $170, and it's still pretty max. I mean, not as max as the Glycerin Max, but we have 44 in the heel, 38 in the forefoot, again for a 6mm drop. In my size, the Glide Ride Max weighs in at 12.3 ounces or 349 grams, so it's a little lighter than the Glycerin Max. Next up, I think we have to compare it to the Hoka Skyward X. And look, this may seem a little unorthodox. The Hoka Skyward X costs $225 compared with the $200 Glycerin Max, but it's still a max stack shoe. We have 48 in the heel, 43 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop, and it's just a couple of grams lighter. But the Skyward X has a carbon fiber plate. So is it worth that $25 extra for the Skyward X over the unplated Glycerin Max? I will have an answer for you in just a second. And then, of course, you may be wondering about the original Glycerin, which we have right here. Now, this original Glycerin is absolutely tiny compared with the Glycerin Max, and it'll only cost you $160. But we have a paltry 40 in the heel, 30 in the forefoot for a 10mm drop. And in my size, the regular Glycerin 21 tips the scale at 11.9 ounces or 336 grams. So it's a little lighter than the Glycerin Max, but again, I'm not sure that really matters. Start at the top and work our way down. Now, let me hold this up for you guys, because there is a lot of padding around here. Like, to me, this is a quintessential Brooks shoe. They make excellent shoes, they make very comfortable shoes, and they tend to use a lot of padding. They have stuck to that recipe with the Glycerin Max. There is a lot of padding around this heel collar. Now, the heel collar padding is very biased to the top. So when you put your ankle into the shoe, it really gives you a good lockdown, and it feels exactly as it looks. Like, it looks like you're stepping into a pillow. That's how it feels. Now, the Brooks Glycerin Max does fit true to size to me. I wear the same size in this as I wear in all my other Brooks shoes, and I've got to say it fit me very well. With that said, I think there is a lot of room in this shoe, and I think it's going to work well for people with slightly wider feet. My toes felt like they had plenty of room to move around, felt like I had plenty of room in the midfoot, or at least I should say I had more room than I needed. As soon as I cinched it down, I did get a good lockdown. But if you have maybe slightly wider feet, I don't want you to look away from the Glycerin Max. I am really loving the aesthetic about the Glycerin Max. And this big Brooks logo on the lateral side just really stands out and I think packs a punch. Again, let me just pull out the regular Glycerin. I think it looks just 1,000 times better than the regular Glycerin 21, right? I mean, this thing looks sharp. The heel counter is extremely rigid, much like on other similar Brooks daily trainers, Ghost, the Ghost Max, the Glycerin, you know, all the shoes that you're going to be going out there and using them for nice, easy, cruisy miles. That's where the Glycerin Max is still going to excel. But except for this big Brooks logo on the lateral side, that's really about it, guys. We just have a nice engineered mesh upper. It's fairly substantial. So I'm not sure in the height of summer if it's going to be the most breathable upper, but because it hasn't been summer, I didn't notice any downside to the upper of the Glycerin Max. It was very comfortable on my foot, no breathability issues whatsoever. The tongue fits right in with the heel collar. It is super plush, super padded. When you cinch down those laces, you are not going to feel the laces whatsoever. Now, the tongue isn't gusseted at all, but we do have a little lace loop on the front. But I've got to say, I didn't have any tongue migration with the Glycerin Max at all. And look, here's where this review is going to take a little turn, because I feel like I've been describing this as like a big, somewhat heavy daily trainer, and we don't always want to hear that. Now, of course, these big padded daily trainers have their place, but we need them to do something extra if they want to stand out. So now we're going to talk about where the Brooks Glycerin Max actually stands out, because it does. And it stands out because of Brooks' new midsole foam. They're calling it DNA Tune, and it's a pretty solid midsole foam, and because there is so much of it here, it's going to do a lot of good things. Now, DNA Tune is a nitrogen-infused midsole foam, much like a lot of their other shoes, but this time they're combining two different foams. We have a foam with big, airy, spaced-out bubbles, which are going to lead to a a nice soft landing. That's what you're going to feel with the extreme comfort when you touch down. But then they've also incorporated some smaller, more tightly packed bubbles. And those bubbles are going to make the shoe feel surprisingly responsive. Now, if we look at the outsole of my shoe, we can see this yellow bit here on the front. If I had to guess, this yellow bit is the smaller bubbles, and then the white, the main part of the midsole, is all those wider bubbles kind of built for comfort. Also, Brooks is using their glide roll technology, which also, I hate to say it because it's almost cliche, but at least in conjunction with the two types, the DNA2 and the two types of nitrogen-sized bubbles in the midsole foam and the glide roll tech, makes this shoe come alive. Guys, got to remind you, in my size, 379 grams, and I'm telling you that this shoe comes alive. Now, before we get into the ride, I do want to say that if you wanted to use this shoe for something other than running, you certainly could. I mean, this shoe has comfort written all over it. If you want to wear a shoe and you want an extra couple inches and you want to be just insanely comfortable all day long, the Brooks Glycerin Max is going to work for that. But let's stick to running, because the Brooks Glycerin Max is a running shoe. Like, first and foremost, I feel it is more of a running shoe than the regular Glycerin, and it is not what I expected. Now, I did get this shoe a little late. I saw a lot of the events that Brooks was putting on and everyone was hyping the shoe, and I was like, yeah, look at that, the shoe looks nice, but it does look like just another big Brooks daily trainer. And then I got it and I understood the hype, because yes, it is not what you would expect. It's big, it's fairly heavy, at least in comparison to some other shoes. But what they've been able to do with this is quite surprising. Now, before we get into the ride, I do just want to say that Brooks this year, man, I have been a big fan of Brooks this year. In fact, I think I have it here. Look at this. The Hyperion 2, I just absolutely love this shoe. This shoe is fast, it's responsive, definitely not as cushioned as the Glycerin Max, but it's a totally different shoe. I like the lightweight upper. Guys, go and watch my review on this shoe if you want to hear more, but this is a real banger this year. And we're going to come back to this shoe in just a second, because with the Brooks Glycerin Max, this is a cruiser. This is the shoe you're going to take out for most of your runs. Most of the time, we just want to go out, we want to be comfortable, we want to log our miles, and we want to do it with a smile on our face. Glycerin Max is going to do that for you. And I've got to tell you that the Brooks Glycerin Max moves in a way that it probably shouldn't. And all that marketing hype about optimizing airy softness and an electrifying responsiveness, that actually fits. Because when you start running in the shoe, it's pretty much exactly as you would expect if you read the marketing copy. It's a soft ride when you land, and it's a responsive ride when you toe off. And it is surprising when you start running and you get into that. Now, if you are a Brooks fan, I do have to tell you that this is a pretty good shoe, and I think you'll be very happy with it. In fact, I thought about what I wanted to recommend to go with the shoe, and I gotta say that I wouldn't buy the regular Glycerin 21 anymore after running in this, because the ride is so much more of a treat in the Glycerin Max, even though it is slightly heavier. Now, even though that this is responsive when you toe off, it's responsive as you toe off if you compare it to other daily trainers, other cruisers. So I think your best bet, if you were looking to stay within the Brooks lineup, would be to go with something like this. Something light, something nimble, like the Hyperion 2, maybe the Hyperion Max 2 for your speed work. And then you can just sit back and enjoy the insane comfort and surprising performance of the Brooks Glycerin Max. Guys, I feel like I've been jumping all around in this review, but this shoe is somewhat of an enigma. It feels like it shouldn't feel, right? It doesn't feel like other shoes that I've compared it to, and it certainly doesn't feel like other daily trainers in the Brooks lineup. So guys, let me know your thoughts. Have you run in the Brooks Glycerin Max? Are you thinking about picking up a pair? Drop a comment and let me know. But with that, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the Brooks Glycerin Max. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.